The Menu is a movie that was released on 2022 and it was directed by Mark Mylod and written by Will Tracy and Seth Race. The story focuses in a young couple, Tyler and Margot, played by Nicholas Hoult and Anya Taylor-Joy, who travel to an island where an incredible famous chef serves his unique and lavish menu. However, the glamorous little trip for dinner turns into a nightmare as the evening goes along. Now, while the story is about Tyler and Margot, we really follow Margot. While Tyler seems to be a know-it-all when it comes to food because he is really passionate about it, Margot is a casual. She is just there to have dinner and see what it is all about. So, Margot basically serves as our protagonist and storytelling tool for the audience, because she seems to be the only one there who really doesn't get the hype about the chef or the island, so everything gets explained to her. We get exposition in a very natural way. As they arrive to the island, they are giving a tour, and through this we get to know a lot about how dedicated is the chef to his job. And then they finally arrive to the restaurant and things just start going downhill from there. The night starts with dishes that you would expect from a place like this, strange conceptual dishes made for small bites. It is around the third plate when things start getting weird, when Chef Slowik just straight up mocks everyone in the restaurant by giving them a plate with just condiments. He makes a speech about how bread is for poor people, and since the diners at his restaurant are so rich and high-end, they cannot eat bread, so he gives them nothing, just condiments. After that, things do not get any better, because we have a dish that comes together with a story from Slowik's childhood when he stabbed his dad on the leg because he was abusive towards him and his mother. And the dish is a representation of that moment in his life, a life that led him with his mother, a woman that no matter what Slowik did, she would never be satisfied with her son. And that dish is a pair of scissors stuck in a piece of meat. And what happens from there is a guy shoots himself in the head, they are served the next dish based on the guy who is now dead on the floor, one of the diners has his finger chopped off, and they are served some tea to clean their palate. After that, it is revealed that everyone in there is at fault of something. The food critic who was responsible for shooting Slowik into fame that turned him into who he is now and the life that he dislikes so much. The assistance of the investor who actually owned the island and pays for everything Slowik does and that had been committing tax fraud. Then the old rich marriage who had dined 11 times at the island and just cannot name one single dish, showing just how selfish they are and how little care they have for others, because they cannot even put attention to what they're eating. An actor who starred in a bad movie Sloan happened to watching one of his rare free days. He sees the actor as someone who sold his soul and does bad movies for big money. No passion nor care for his work anymore. And his girlfriend, well, she is a woman who graduated from a good college and happens to not have student loans, meaning she was privileged. And as for Tyler and Margot, well, with Tyler the problem is that he is nothing but a pretentious prick. He can name ingredients and techniques, but he cannot cook for his life. He uses other people's talents to feel good about himself. He's calling other phonies and not true foodies, so unlike him because he knows so much and he's so passionate about food, when he's actually just bullshitting. And this is revealed because the chef finally gives Tyler a chance to cook on his kitchen, one of Tyler's biggest dreams. And well, he basically messes that up because he made a horrible and unedible dish. But that's not all that is happening with Tyler, because his ego turns out to be so big. He actually fooled Margot into going to this island with him because his girlfriend broke up with him before the trip, but he couldn't go alone. So he brought Margot, an escort, knowing they were going to die that day because for him it was more important to not show up alone than the life of an innocent human being. Because that is the plot twist. Slowik is going to kill himself and everyone in that restaurant, but he was annoyed with Margot because everyone invited deserved to die, but Margot was not planned. She was Tyler's backup plan and they have nothing about her, and Slowik doesn't even know if she deserves to die. Because it doesn't matter the branch, Slowik recognizes Margot as part of the service industry. So, after all the comings and goings and the panic of the group when they know they're going to die there and then, Margot is able to discover a little secret. She sees different pictures of Chef Slowik when he was actually happy. One is with his wife and kid, and another one is when he was just starting and he was cooking burgers in a cheap restaurant. This secret is what eventually sets Margot free. She stands up to the chef, tells him his food has no love nor soul, and that she wants a regular cheeseburger. She proceeds to treat the chef and the place like a regular restaurant, and after asking for the check and have her burger to go, she leaves. And the rest of the people are turned into a gigantic s'more as Margot escapes on a boat. And the movie ends. So now that we are through the plot of the movie, let's stay on track with the story. The underlying message is that we forget how to enjoy things. We need to make a profit out of everything. We use them to seem more intelligent, to seem superior, to feel important. We're basically always trying to sell ourselves to the world instead of just loving things. We want to be validated, to please others, or to prove we are better than others. The chef used to be happy cooking hamburgers, but once he went into the spotlight and became this important chef, all happiness was sucked out of him. He had investors he needed to respond to, he had to impress people who at the end of the day didn't really care for what he did. They just wanted to critique his food. It's all shallow, and this shallowness makes Slowik want to kill everyone and himself and make the world a favor by eliminating people like all of them. People who will ignore the most heinous shit in exchange of status or just seeming important. Tyler is a great example of the worst type of people. When they are served condiments with no bread, he eats it up and even excuses why it is a good dish, even though there's no food. He is so snobbish that he would pretend he knows what he's talking about to the point he doesn't realize he is just being stupid. He has his head so far up his ass, people are getting killed and mutilated in front of him, but he remains unfazed. And everything he has, his entire personality, is being this food expert. So when it is proved he cannot cook to save his life, Slowik basically destroys the only meaningful thing about him, the only thing he had that made him special, or worse, his entire personality and purpose. And without it, well, he just cannot handle it and he takes himself out. As for the crew, I think that they also got killed because they are following the chef's steps. In Slowik's eyes, they are stupid enough to want to leave everything behind and slave themselves to people who will never appreciate them. And for this foolishness, they deserve to die. Because if they don't, they'll end up in the same miserable spot as Slowik is now. They are not chasing happiness or appreciating the people who love them. They care more about the glory and success. It is briefly established that the chef used to have a wife and kid, but they are clearly not in his life anymore. So it makes sense he's punishing his crew for doing the same thing to their loved ones. Or maybe he is freeing his crew from their desire and glory, which will give them nothing. Ultimately, he and his crew are also part of the system he hates, so they need to go too. As to why Margot survives, the way that I saw it was, when Margot infiltrates into Slowik's house, she discovers he was once happy when his job was simpler, when he didn't need to impress people and he just loved what he did. So she goes back to the restaurant and decides to treat Slowik like what he is. Not a celebrity, nor someone influential. She treats him like a regular chef in a regular restaurant. And so that's why she orders a regular cheeseburger, because it is directly connected to the chef's past. She put attention. She compliments the burger, but then asks to have the burger to go and pays the bill. And like that, she can go. Margot gets to leave because she was truthful, because she was able to see when he was happier and when food was about happiness, not pursuing perfection. Slowik also talked about how it is impossible to please customers, but Margot calls a cheeseburger, now that's a cheeseburger. She compliments the food. She is pleased and satisfied with his word. It is obvious Slowik knows what she is doing, but he lets her go because at one point he told the diners, "If you wish, you could have fought harder, but you didn't," pointing everyone as cowards. Not even when they are about to get killed, they can be smart. Margot wasn't a coward and she was smart. She paid attention to the chef and understood what he was about and faced him, and so she was allowed to leave. Even Anya Taylor-Joy said it in an interview. The delusionment of doing something that you love and then being worn down by a customer, I think is the thing that really kind of unites the two of them. That's why when she compliments the burger, Slowik seems like he was about to cry. Moving to more technical issues. I loved the food banners. The banners at the start were like a cooking documentary that tells you what are the ingredients of the dishes, but they never stopped appearing and they just got funnier as the movie went. The banners were a great joke that kept building up. Also, another thing that I loved was the claps. It felt like the claps were getting louder as the movie went and they became threatening. It's great to see something as simple as that being used in a smart way to create tension. And the last thing I want to mention is the acting. I think it was so great. Ralph Fiennes is incredible as Chef Slowick. He was stoic and nerve-wracking, and at the end when Margot asked for the burger, how softly he changed his expressions and gave a whole different emotion, he was just great. I also really like Nicholas Hoult as Tyler. Tyler the character was unbearable, but Nicholas did an amazing job being unbearable. That look he had on his eyes, like a little deer looking straight into some headlights as the chef put on the kitchen uniform on him. I don't know how to describe that look he had, but he sold it. And lastly, I love Anya Taylor-Joy because she is able to do such a good job in every role. I have seen many of her movies and in every single one I see the characters, not Anya. And she made Margot a believable character in a situation like that. I read the director wanted to do some female rage thing where she silently cries when it is revealed Tyler brought her to the island knowing she would die. And Anya rejected that idea and decided that according to Margot's personality, it would be more believable if she went over the table trying to punch Tyler, and it was the right choice. Margot was a bit snarky and not afraid to say what she thought to Tyler, so she reacting like that was on point. So overall, I think the menu was really great and I will rewatch the movie without an issue. Very enjoyable and funny. I gave an 8.5 out of 10 to this movie.